have you come across this? The Ohio Painting Company goes into a house and it is wallpaper with paint on top of it. What do you do?
Yeah, we have come across it.
We're back on the Ohio Painting Company podcast with one of the founders, Nick Goebel, digging the hat, the NetJets hat. That's been a recent job, right? Down in Cincinnati?
Yeah. Pretty cool. Yeah, that went well. I mean, we have continued work there and we've done well down there. It's a highly logistical project. A lot of moving pieces and security clearances. And so we did a bunch down there, some out on the runway, primarily exterior of their building, a lot of interior work. Their flight command center has been evolving and changing. And so little snippets of work here and there. Some full office repaints, and there's always movement. I think. I mean, if I were to guess, they got like 60 people down there, and they all have a very specialized purpose. So, uh, um, and they're always trying to treat them right. So, we saw a lot of that, and they've been great to work for.
That's
So,
cool.
yeah, got this hat. Got Kevin one too, and I don't know. It is pretty cool. And again, we had a conversation about planes and jets and just kind of being down there and being amongst that. It kind of feels like it's not as majestic as mountains, but it's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, I mean, especially in that corner of the state, that's kind of where, I mean, it's not where the first flight happened, but that's where the old boys were born over there, pretty close in the area at least. So
Yeah.
that's pretty neat. I
Yep.
mean, tons of aviation stuff over there in the first place. I mean, take a look directly across the street from the Ohio Painting Company. There's an
Yeah.
airport
Right.
right there.
Wright Brothers Airport. It's funny.
Yeah.
I was talking to we got a call from a gentleman, and he's got email, but he doesn't text, and he seemed very particular, and he had a new deck built, and the person that had previously built his deck was the home builder, and it was falling apart. He said it looked nice, but he couldn't walk on it, and so anyhow, talking with him, and I he gets thrown on the schedule last minute, and Kevin's out of town right now. So his schedule's already busy, and I'm like, oh, okay. And they tell me like that, he sounds very particular and could be great. And he could talk your ear off or not. It's like I'm like, well, I'll carve out the time and go talk to anybody. And so I like him a lot.
Yeah.
First thing I notice is he's wearing jean shorts above his knees, and he's got tube socks pulled up, the white style
Yeah.
with big old white sneakers, and the socks are pulled up to his knee, and he's walking around high step, and it's just how he walks, and he's just talking to my element in a very particular fashion, and I'm just smiling, walking behind him back to the deck, and turns out so he lives on this airport. His backyard faces like we see the airport every day, see the planes coming in, different perspectives around perimeter of the airport. It's really like, as far as residentials, it's only built up on two sides of it, but
Uh-huh.
the way the foliage and trees are, you never get a great look at the runway in the airport. And this guy has the best view of the airport. We're watching planes taking off and coming
Oh,
in. It's like it's right there. It's looking all the way down it, and
like a dream
and
for me.
he's an aeronautics engineer. I'm like, well, that kind of explains a lot of his peculiarity.
Right.
And so anyhow, and we started talking, and it was just a blast talking to him. And I just, talking about the deck, talking about aviation, and I was wearing this hat, so we went off on a little rabbit trail like we are now.
Yeah.
Um, and anyhow, he's like, I'm a computer guy. I'm like, you're a computer guy, but you don't text. He's like, well, I respect the company phone, and I don't need another one. So he's like, that's just how I operate. He's like, so I don't really come outside much. He's like, but I come out on this deck for 4th of July because they released fireworks from the airport. I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. And if I had this deck, I'd be out here all the time watching airplanes. And he's
Oh
an
man.
aeronautics engineer. But anyhow, he's a great guy, really interesting. And so we're going to end up doing his deck, and that turned out well. But yeah, I I love the people that I meet, man.
I bet.
It's a fun world.
Man, I'll tell you, if I had that opportunity right there, I'd have a desk on wheels and I'd be shoving it out onto the porch every chance I
Oh
could when it
yeah.
wasn't raining. Get my computer set
Oh,
up, watch planes come in.
it'd be a perfect spot for, I mean, because Nobody's ever going to build on them. I mean, the
Right.
next best thing is like, building off of a state park. Nobody's ever going to build on you. You're always going to be able to,
Hmm.
I say, pee in your backyard. Um, that maybe that's not PC, but like, it's for, for a lot of guys, it's part of the dream.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd have a little bar out there and a table and the full shebang. Yeah, and a desk. It'd be cool. So
Yeah.
anyhow, yeah.
Well, it sounds
So
like
net
he's got
jets
it.
to that.
Yeah, he's got it going on for sure. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
But to kind of get back on topic here, we're out of here. We're done. This is the last podcast we're filming in this house. We are closing today after we wrap up. We're handing the keys
Congratulations.
over. Appreciate it. You hauled today, and we're making the big move tomorrow, and they get the house on Friday. So that's how that's all going. But what we're doing is we're moving into a very, very old house that has, I mean, if those walls could talk, what would they say? They would be a little muffled because it's behind wallpaper and it's behind however many layers of paint on top of that wallpaper. And we noticed that just from running our hand on it. We noticed, obviously a texture on the paint, but it was a much more pronounced texture. And then we asked one of the lady's children who passed away. We asked them, said, "Did your mom have wallpaper on here?" And they said, "Yeah, throughout the entire house." And they painted it over top of the
Yeah.
wallpaper. So, there was a story a long time ago, and it was with my uncle, and we were driving up to Pittsburgh to watch a Steelers game, and we got lost on the way up there. We had to stop at a gas station, and he said, "We got turned around a little bit. We're looking for, what we're looking just to get into Pittsburgh. What's the quickest way?" And the woman that we were talking to was like, "Oh my gosh, you are so far away from the road that you need to be on. Like, just instead of saying this is what you need to do, relax."
Oh
She
yeah.
he was just throwing,
Oh
yeah, oh no,
no.
no, this is the
Oh,
worst thing you could possibly do is be at this
you're
gas station.
you're more
And
likely to die of hunger or thirst than find your way to this road.
and I really haven't thought of that story until I was at the store the other day and I was buying wallpaper solution, the adhesive loosening solution. I bought a new steamer for specifically for walls. I bought the
Oh
scoring
boy.
tool and the scraper. I got the whole shebang so we can get behind this paint. And the woman that I was talking to, she was like the same woman as that gas station. She was like, "Oh my gosh, this is going to take you forever." And I was like, "I know, but what do I need?" And she was like, she's like interrupted me. She's like, "I just did mine 2 weeks ago and it took 8 hours on one wall. And I had the solution, I had the scrapers. It's just going to take you forever." And I was like, "Great. What do I need to get it done?" And she
It's like you're talking
finally,
like you're talking to me. You need a 5 second answer, and I'll give you like a 30-minute one. But no,
yeah, she was just telling me how bad it sucked. And I was like, I
oh yeah,
know full well that this is
yeah.
going to suck bad. All right. But I
Stop
just,
stop kicking me while I'm down. I just want to. I need less grievance and I need more solutions, please.
exactly, exactly.
Uh
And
huh.
speaking of solution, hopefully we can talk about that later. What do you need to mix up to make sure that things get behind that? Loosen up that adhesive that's been on there for decades, literally. But all right. Have you come across this? The Ohio Painting Company goes into a house and it is wallpaper with paint on top of it. What do you do?
Yeah, we have come across it, and so not to follow that lady. So here's the thing. So wallpaper, in principle, if you can get behind the paper and resaturate and basically remoisten that glue back there, it is intended to release and come off. Now it's meant to bind and it's meant to stick that paper indefinitely also and be
Hmm.
super tight. So although it can be remoisturized, it is going to. It's nice to have a sizing behind it, and sizing is basically like a bond breaker that as soon as it gets wet, it's going to release paper from the wall. The thing is, most of the time, well, not most of the time. You never know if sizing is used or not. So wallpaper is one of those things. Nobody likes a time and material line because they're ambiguous. You can't exactly budget for them. You can approximate what you think it's going to take, but um, so you don't know if sizing is used or not before you get into the paper removal. But going all the way back to the beginning. So now you've got paper, and sometimes on a wallpaper you have like a plastic layer. If it feels like texturous or textile, typically you can peel that away and get right to the fiber. If it feels like it has a plastic coating or real smooth coating on it, that coating's got to be punctured before you even get back to the paste.
Right.
And I say all that to take you to where you are. Um, you've got potentially a plastic layer or some type of vinyl coating over top of it, and then you've got the paint over top of that, and who knows how many coats. So you won't know until you dive in. Score the crap out of it, and and expect that by the time you remove the paper and you score it that much, yeah, you're going to need like 14 of those because there's
I was thinking about getting a second one for my wife so she could start on the other side of the room.
well,
I
yeah,
only got
then you
one.
might then you might need 28 of them because you're like
Do they wear down?
you're younger than me. You're yeah, but Karate Kid, wax on, wax off. You're gonna be doing a lot of that.
So
And
I got the right tools. I just didn't get enough of them.
yeah, and at
Oh.
least to start, I so yeah, so what happens is that, like that's plastic, it's on swivels and it will puncture. Sometimes it punctures too well, but it'll wear down. Those blades will start bending, kind of bending in and everything. So
Hmm.
that's why, rather than run back out to the store, although you might need a break at that point and say, I need 30 minutes off this. I'm going to run to the store and get another scoring tool. If you're in the groove of it, you're going to want to have an extra one. Sometimes those little plastic swivels also break. They're not um, they're not built like they were in the 50s. I'm not, and
Right.
I don't know how they're, but like, yeah, I mean, it's plastic and everything else. It gets the job done in a small degree. So get a few more of those, and get into it and start it, and just know that every, like, it's not just enough to leave a mark on the wall. Here's the thing about paint is it's not wall paint is not going to be completely hard. If it was acrylic, it's still going to have some give to it, like like rubber or a balloon. We are talking about latexes, right? So um, so you might find yourself scoring it, and you're not actually puncturing it. You're just kind of indenting it.
Okay.
So you're going to want to get behind it and score it, and just try an area and see if you want to go at it. Here, the ultimate reality is going to could possibly come to you're going to end up skim coating the wall, and you're going to save a lot of time and headache doing that and learning how to skim coat. There's going to be a learning curve for you on it, but your learning curve might be a little bit less steep than the curve of actually going through the puncturing process and the soaking and the removing. And then once you get past the paint and the wallpaper, what's actually behind it? Has it been sized? Maybe, maybe not. I don't want to say it's a 50-50 chance, but you just never know until you know. At
Hmm.
that point, whatever damage you do and trying to figure it out and work on, pick the worst room in the house, the one that you care least about, but you know it's there, and start in there and go to town and try different methods too. The scoring tool works really well. Um, Another method that we like to try is just taking a utility knife, and you don't want to just gouge the wall. You don't want to like dig in an eighth of an inch, but if you take a utility knife and you come back and you make a bunch of small X's,
Hmm.
and then that's going to score it just the same. It won't be like perforated micro scores. That would be better in principle, but sometimes it's tough with that little tool. You just don't know what kind of perforation you're getting when you're actually scoring it until you try to soak it. And if that water's just sitting on the surface, is not getting back there, then everything you've done's been in vain, and you just got to score harder.
Right.
Um, so ultimately, yeah, you may or may not get it off. Try it on the worst room, and have a little patience and try different methods. Try the scoring tool, try a knife. The whole principle being get past the paint, get past the wallpaper, and get to where if you soak the wall with a bug sprayer and you really put the water on, it's going to soak through and get to that adhesive where it can peel away. Um, one other thing you can try also before you get into all that is get to a corner or a seam where it's
Hmm.
starting to buckle. See if you can get a knife in underneath it and try pulling it away. Sometimes wallpaper it's two ply, just like toilet paper.
Right. Right.
You got your fibrous backing, and then you'll have a top layer, and that one might peel off in pieces, but eventually it'll peel off. And if you do that, you'll peel off paint, you'll peel off any type of membrane that's there, and you'll have access to that fiber that you can just soak the crap out of, and then you'll be able to get it off with a 6-inch blade or scraper or whatever you want to use. So those would be the methods that I
All
would
right.
approach it at. Yeah.
Well, damn, I got all this stuff at the store and it was like slow motion with the music playing. I like, push the door open and I got my bags and I'm heading back out to the car. Like, I got this handled. Don't worry about it. Papa's coming home with the right stuff and we're gonna get it done. I didn't get enough of these. I did get a
So
steamer though.
you do that though. I want to see. I need shoulder shots of you and your wife. You guys are going to have delts up to here. You're going to have like you'll be walking around like this. Yeah, you're going to get a nice workout in,
So
which will help you in golf.
yeah, for sure. That's coming up here in a few weeks, but we're not, promoting products or anything like that. Wagner didn't really hand us over a paycheck to talk about their product. Obviously, I haven't used this yet. I just got it yesterday. And it's one of very few that are at the store that you can choose from. But this says to fill it up with water. I asked the lady, I said, can I crack this box open and look at the instructions, talk about what I'm supposed to put in this? And she said, yeah, no problem. So I looked at the chart in here about what to
Mhm.
mix, and it just says water.
Yeah.
But I also got a solution that you can mix. It makes like 5 gallons or something like that. So I mean, is there? I remember Kevin saying one time, and this was in a video. He was talking about removing wallpaper. I think it was in a bathroom, and he said you need to add things to make the water wetter. So I'm assuming that solution that I bought is gonna do that. But you
Yeah.
know, what do you have to say on making water wetter?
So the idea is to not allow water to evaporate so fast. So that's what he means by make water wetter. So you basically and you're lowering the boiling point of water, which that they have additives in there and catalyzers that'll help basically strip wallpaper and wallpaper remover. But they also have a basic ingredient that every house has in it too, which is basically fabric softener.
Mm,
So that will make the water wetter, make it evaporate less quickly, which will allow it to continue to work on the paste. Um, Going back to the machine that you have, I've never used a Wagner. They make professional machines. Wagner makes machines that get the job done on a smaller scale. And again, when you're running trial and error on it, it might be one of those things that you buy and you find that it could be great, it could be pointless, but at least if it's working to the 16th degree, um, just on that little unit, better than any other system you're using, then you might want to go out to a local rental place and get an industrial steamer.
got it.
However, like something like that, though, they got to create the steam some way, and that's going to be a heating element. So don't add the fabric softener or the stripper to that, because as it superheats in the electric coil to create steam, think of your coffee maker, and if you don't use filtered water and you use like hard water,
Hmm.
that's going to, as it cooks, it's going to bind itself to that heating element and reduce the effectiveness of the heating element, which is going to give you less steam. So she is right, or the instructions are right, and just make sure you're just adding water to it.
It gets under my skin about these kinds of products is that this woman on this box right here is having way too good a time with this crap. So you're saying that that is a model who is not actually doing that at all because this is the biggest piss you off
Well, I mean,
type of project you can do.
I I don't I don't want to shortchange her life experiences. I mean, behind that picture is an actual person. So if she ever saw this, I bet she's wonderful, and I bet she's a great wife.
I bet she is
Um,
too. I mean, especially
yeah,
since she's taking
or
all the
sister or
wallpaper.
family member. And she's probably done a lot in life, but she probably hasn't stripped wallpaper with that machine. No.
She took
Yeah.
she took years of acting lessons to be the wallpaper model on the back of a Wagner
Yeah.
steamer box, right?
And she's still getting royalties on it, so she's doing something right. Yeah.
There you go. Um,
Hopefully.
let's say in a perfect world, I go get a couple more of these, couple few more of them.
Right. Hmm.
I score that whole place and we get that wallpaper off of there. And dude, it's not the
Yeah. Hey,
time.
how you doing?
Not the time, brother. Um, everything goes perfect. Scored.
Hmm.
The steamer works fantastic. We don't hit any snags at all. We get all that wallpaper
Okay.
off of there and just fill the trash cans up with it. How long are we
Right.
waiting? How long should we wait before we paint? I mean, stuff's got to dry up, right? Especially if the water's wetter.
So likely what you're going to find is, and again, I don't want to speak anything positive or negative into it. Any removal requires some type of skim coating. Maybe not full skim coating. You're going to gouge an area. You're going to hold the knife wrong because you're scraping and
Right.
you're just in this monotonous world living in your head and you want to kick yourself, but your foot doesn't bend that way or your knee doesn't bend that way. But like so you're going to lose attention and you're going to hold the knife wrong. It's going to hit something and that edge of your blade is going to gouge into the wall. So
Right.
those things happen. It's not the wallpaper. It's not what you're doing. I guess it ultimately it's how you're doing it. But again, it is a monotonous job, and that's going to happen. So you're going to have some patching. What I would say is water's plentiful. You live next to a river. So if your water goes off, you can still find water. Use plenty of water. Just keep it, you can use the detergent. What we use is a bug sprayer. We drop plastic on the floor, we tape it off, we throw some towels down there, and we soak the wall away with. I mean, by the time we get it scored and perforated, we literally use a bug sprayer and we'll soak the wall down and then we'll let it dry or let it set for about 5 minutes or so and come back and soak it again. And that's the keeping it wet. So use plenty of water because that is ultimately what's going to get back there and release that.
Hmm.
If you're using enough water to be effective in the stripping and the scraping, you're probably going to want to let your walls dry for, I'd say, at least 24 hours because
Perfect.
that gypsum, that plaster is going to be pretty well saturated. So if you let it dry for 24 hours, um, make sure you scrub all the glue off once you remove the paper. You're still going to want to come back through with the sponge, and you'll know if it's clean or dry not by looking at it, but as because you're going to have your hands all over that wall. You're going to know. Get a mop bucket and a sponge, a nice big sponge, and scrub it away, and then soak it and scrub it like you would with a mop. And you'll be
Hmm.
able to tell when the glue is wet, it's going to feel slimy.
Right.
Whereas where it's dry, it's going to feel more, I guess, rubbery. Like you're going to be able to tell there's not glue there. If you don't scrub all that away, by the time you go through and you prime or patch, that the water in the paint and primer is going to reactivate that glue and it's going to create fish eyeing and separation and sometimes bubbles. And then now you have to get through that paint and you just put on there and scrape that away so you can get the glue off. So your paint finishes out well.
Mm. All right. Well, this is great. This is really helping us out, and I'm ecstatic at
Giving
the.
you a plan of attack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know it. So, I mean, do you have to hit every square inch of that wall with this damn thing, or I mean, it is like if you hit one area, is the steam going to be able to get in and go a little bit further, or talk me through
No,
that?
no, it won't. It won't because I mean, basically, it might get so far, but not more than an inch or so
Okay.
wherever you scored. So get creative with the system. I mean, if the scoring tool doesn't work, try a knife. If the knife seems like it works, go out there and get yourself like a rake or something, and throw like 5 utility blades on it, and then come through and
Wow. All right.
score it like this, and then come back and score it like this. Put it on a pole so that way you're not using your shoulders as much, and if get a little creative, do a little YouTube searching, see what other solutions people have. But there's always a way to increase scale or speed of production, especially in something like this, where this is like you're not leaving a finesse finish, you're removing something, and you don't want to be completely like, you don't want to be like a bull in a china shop. You're not going to mess up a whole lot, though. That's all I'm
Hmm.
getting at. I mean, you are going to get to a point, even if everything comes off the wall, you're going to be patching. So, don't be crazy, don't be negligent, but also don't be too gentle either. And
Okay.
don't be afraid to get creative and play around, or ultimately throw in the towel and find out that you know what you're just going to save a crap ton of time by learning how to get good at skim coating, and then you'll treat because you're going to have to get into the mud anyways. I promise
Right.
you that, and so you just spend a little time doing that to remove the texture, and then come back and get yourself a $200 sanding machine and get some sanding blades and and try doing that on the walls to smooth it out and then skim coat areas and you might find that to be more productive.
And that is replacing all of this. That's skim coating is replacing the removal of the wallpaper.
Correct. So
Okay.
yes. So what you're going to get into there, and the reason of all the reasons painting wallpaper is bad. One of them is it's either tight or it's not, and sometimes it's not super tight in areas. So when you start painting or priming the wallpaper, if it's stuck, it's stuck. It's not nothing's going to happen, but you might
Hmm.
resaturate an area that wasn't stuck as well, and it's going to leave you like a little bubble or blister in the middle of the wall, and you won't know until you get the wall wet with paint or with water. When you get those blisters, and you're just, I mean, ultimately you'll have to cut those out and prime them and patch those areas. So it could just be on a wall. It might just be a couple areas that blister up like that. It might be 14 areas that blister up like that. But still, yeah, you're weighing your time and production of that versus skim coating. If you're going to be skim coating anyways, you just go ahead and find out where those blisters are going to form and prime them and patch them, and then get to skim coating the rest of the wall. Um, so anyhow, that would be the final contingency, is just weighing, if once you dive into it, how productive are you? What are you getting into? And should you just learn how to skim coat, and that'll be another skill in your homeowner's tool belt.
The Dose of Reality, brought to you by Nick Goebel. A little more nervous going into this project now, but I'm gonna,
You can't hurt
obviously,
anything.
yeah. There you go. Just go back and listen. If you missed anything in this episode, I mean, this was, I think, great. Lots of tips in there about getting this project done. In particular, I'm kind of leaning towards skim coating. Why not? Just leave it
Yeah.
up there.
If
Which
it were
one's,
me, I would be leaning into it also.
yeah. Which one's messier?
Dust wise, skim coating. You're using more mud, but you can always contain that. They make plastic over your registers, or they make magnets you can throw on it. You take it room by room.
Right.
Just say, I mean, I'm sure you have more than 4 rooms in your house, so you can leave things out of that room, drop plastic over the doorway, and work on that room. Especially if you're going to be doing that much sanding, you can go to Harbor Freight, get you one of those vacuum sanders. Make sure you have a filter in the vacuum. But those in this 180 sandpaper, you don't have to go anything more than that. But that'll really speed up. Like, you can skim coat, you can use that, come back, let it dry, use that sander. Again, it saves your shoulders, it saves time, and then it allows your capacity to want to continue the project. It leaves that intact. You're still making progress. You're not wearing yourself out to the point where you're useless. And you decide to take a week off. What happens when you take a week off of something? Working out, your diet, anything.
Yeah.
That 1 week can become like 3 weeks. It can be indefinite. So
Yeah.
anyhow,
Well,
yeah.
we've talked about that for sure, and another aspect about staying focused on a task. So do what you can to keep your routines the same. That's good stuff. All right, Nick. Well, that's great. We are going to keep you updated. I'm so pumped that we're moving into a place that needs a lot of work,
Dude,
because we just have
I'm so excited for you though.
endless podcast topics and I'm going to keep you guys up to date, and we'll talk about them right here on the show. And hopefully, people can take some notes and put it into their own house while they continue through living, I guess. So
Yeah,
good stuff.
LIVIM.
There you are. That's Nick Goebel, one of the founders of the Ohio Painting Company. I want to thank you for coming on, and we'll be talking next week.
See you guys.